thing I learned is when cops show up to a party, do not hesitate to run. There was a group of kids that stayed hiding in the basement. They hid in a closet, they hid in just like under the couch and rooms and shit. And then there was another group of kids who ran out the back door. Me and my buddy were a part of that group. So we're all running like a free-for-all, and this kid's backyard is just straight wilderness. Me and my buddy end up getting separated, and I'm fucked because my phone is dead. We gotta be at least like a quarter mile into the fucking forest by now, so I'm freaking out. I need to find my buddy. We need to meet up and do what his dad told us to do. So I'm standing all alone in the woods, and I just start screaming, "Gary!" A few seconds goes by. I hear my buddy scream from a distance, "Gio!" So we keep screaming like that until we eventually find each other. And my buddy was just with two random girls that we didn't even know. They were staying by him because they were scared and they didn't know where to go. So now it's time to execute the plan his dad told us to do if shit went wrong. My buddy picks up.
Story of the time Miley Cyrus went to my elementary school. So I was in first grade and all the cool kids sat at the round table during lunch. And one of the cool kids was absent one day, so I ended up sitting there. I sat next to this girl named Riley. And over the school year, me and Riley became really close friends. One day at the lunch table, she told me she had a really, really big secret that she could only share with me and that I can't tell anybody else. She told me that she was Hannah Montana. And at first, I was a little bit confused because I saw Hannah Montana on TV and she didn't really look like her that much. But then she had told me that her hair was just a wig because her hair was blonde and her actual hair is brown. And her family told her that she had to tell everybody her name was Riley, but in reality, her name was Miley. She invited me over her house to see her walk-in closet and to also show me herself without her wig. Little first grade me was so hype about joining the cool table, but not only that, now I was friends with Hannah Montana. So I went to her house and then soon realized she wasn't Hannah Montana.
When my daughter was born, she had dark skin and looked like her parents could be of African descent. My husband was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened and wanted a divorce. Then his friends and families all called me to say how upset they were and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time as I kept professing my innocence. He refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn and changed the locks. When my sister called to get the baby stuff, he texted her a picture of a bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. Eventually, he agreed to do a paternity test and he was 100% the father. No one could believe this, so he did it again and he was the dad. One of his cousins did the ancestry thing and found out there was 30% of African in their family. This made Jim's paternal great-grandmother admit to having an affair around the same time Jim's grandfather was born, and because he could pass as hers, she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, he's been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize. I told him I needed time and he asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent all this time. Am I the asshole for not wanting to give him a second chance?
Storytime about one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me in high school. So a little background information. I was in my freshman year of high school. Well, spring break was coming up. Well, the whole year, my friend and I hadn't been to one single party. So we decided that we wanted to try and go to a party every single day of spring break, which was about to be super difficult because we had to worry about my strict-ass parents and my neighbors. A little background info on my neighbor. My neighbor is this girl who's in my same grade and she literally hates my guts. I don't know why, but literally anything that I do, she'll go and she'll tell her mom and then her mom will tell my mom because my mom and her mom are best friends. But before we know it, Saturday comes around and we go back to school on Monday. We did not make it to one single party. Well, later that night, we found out that one of our friends was throwing one. So around 11 o'clock, everybody's sleeping and I walk out my back door, hop over my fence, and I start heading towards the road where my friend was going to be parked. You know, who do I see fucking sitting outside on their porch reading a fucking book? My fucking neighbor. Like for part 2. Part 2 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, the bitch that I hate is sitting out on her porch reading a fucking book at 11 o'clock at night. So I crouch down so she couldn't see me. I run to the car and my friend and I finally go to the party. Well, we get to that party and it's really boring, so we decided to go to a different one. And the party that we were about to go through was being thrown by the kid that I really liked. So I start hanging out with him when we get there. I'm drinking a lot, having so much fun, and I really have to go to the bathroom. And I didn't know where anything was at all, so I grabbed my friend and we're looking around everywhere for the bathroom. Because when I asked him, he was super drunk and really couldn't explain to me where the bathroom was. So we were pretty much left to fend for ourselves. But we ended up not being able to find a bathroom, and this is where I had to improvise. So my friend and I go to the laundry room, and we see the litter box in there for the cat. Well, at this point, I was desperate, so I just went in the litter box. Well, 30 minutes later, the cops show up to the party. And everybody had to hurry up and leave because we did not want to get underages. Like for part 3. Part 3 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, I went in the litter box and then the cops showed up. We all ran because we didn't want to get underages. I was able to sneak back into my house without anybody knowing. But when I get to school on Monday, everybody's talking about the party. And apparently the kid that I liked who threw the party, his parents didn't know that he threw one at all. And this was like during first period. So I went to text him and ask him if he was grounded because we were supposed to hang out the next day. And I realized that I am blocked. So I'm thinking, what the fuck, why does he have me blocked? So I told my friend that he blocked me, and she goes, it's probably because he saw what you did in the laundry room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's no fucking way that he knows. Because there was a door that led to the outside in the laundry room, there were cameras in there. So everybody saw this video of me. People were posting it on their Finstas, posting it on their Snapchat stories. It was so fucking embarrassing. Not to mention the bitch that I hate who lives next door showed my parents the fucking video and I was grounded for
Kidnapping rate in Detroit is so high a woman can't even go to the store alone anymore. I went to Myers and I bumped into a guy in an aisle. He was really, really tall with long hair. And I was like, oh, my bad, excuse me. He looked down at me. He was like, oh, no, you good, you good. Next thing I know, every aisle that I went to after that, he somehow ended up in the same aisle. So I tested the dude out to see if he was really following me or if maybe I was going crazy, you know. So I went to the tampon aisle over by the makeup and all the women's products. Why he end up in that aisle too? So then I started taking my sweet ass time trying to see if this man would leave, which he never did. So I went to self-checkout and deliberately checked the product wrong. When assistants came, I told them, hey, look, it seems like this dude's been following me all this time. Can somebody walk me out to my car? They sent one of the guys that wrangle up the cars to walk with me. So I finished my checkout and me and the Myers employee walked out together. And he and I both noticed this man following me to the car. And then the man walked 4 lanes over to his car, got in there and waited for me to finish packing up my car. Mind you, I had 2 children with me, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. At that point, the Myers employee told me he was about to go get security. I hopped in my car because I didn't feel safe anymore. I was by myself and I started to drive off. The man followed me out onto 12 Mile and at that point I called the police. The police told me to drive straight to the police station, which I did. 2 miles down the road, this guy was still behind me, and I kind of think he figured out what was going on, so he turned off on the side street. I have not seen him since that day.
This is why you should think twice about making your friend your surrogate. I always knew I wanted to have a few kids. I've dreamt of being a mom for as long as I can remember. However, due to a medical condition, carrying a baby isn't an option for me. I wasn't going to let this stop me, so I started looking into surrogacy. This process was really expensive and a lot harder than I thought. After months of searching, my best friend Ashley volunteered to be my surrogate for me and my fiance. She knew how much we wanted to start a family. I was so excited and extremely grateful. Ashley and I had been friends for 8 years and I couldn't think of anyone better to be our surrogate. My fiance and I decided to ask Ashley to move in with us so that we could all be there for each other throughout the pregnancy. Everything was going great until it wasn't. Ashley started making a few comments to my fiance that made me really uncomfortable. One night, she asked him to give her a back massage. When he hesitated, she said to him, "I'm carrying your child, you should do whatever I ask you to." I let this comment go even though it didn't sit right with me. Another night, she referred to herself as his baby mama, which made me furious. I told her she was overstepping and she laughed and told me she was just kidding. It only got worse from here. Part 2, why you should think twice about making your friend your surrogate. Ashley continued to overstep throughout the surrogacy process. One night, she told me she didn't like the name that I picked out for my baby and started giving me recommendations on what she thought the name should be. As it got closer to the due date, Ashley told me that she had thoughts about moving in permanently and raising the baby with my fiance and I, which was never part of the plan. When I shut that down, she seemed bitter. I could tell she had developed feelings for my fiance, which made it even more awkward. I knew I made a terrible mistake picking her as my surrogate. After my daughter was born, Ashley stayed with us for a little while longer, even though it wasn't part of our initial agreement. She wanted to spend every second holding our new baby girl, and I could tell that she was getting overly attached. We decided to tell Ashley our observations and told her that she had to move out before things got worse. She didn't take this well, and when she left, she told us that she didn't want to hear from us anymore. A couple years later, Ashley reached out to us and asked if she could come over and see us. When she came over, she told my daughter right in front of me that she was her real mom and that she'd find out when she was older. I couldn't believe it and immediately asked her to leave. Luckily,